Do you want the luxury of an extended cab that's still too cheap for a fourth door? Do you want the interior quality of a dinosaur's birth canal? Do you want your girlfriend's IUD to fall out every time you shift? Do you want to live the freewheeling existence of a brick mason who drinks flat beer and puts away dishes soaking wet? Do you want to cosplay a blue-collar worker who quit online dating after the third straight new age worrywart that tried to sell him on the benefits of drinking colloidal silver? Do you want to have the road feel of a man with psoriasis rubbing his back against a knotted oak tree? Do you want to blast country songs about how great it is to own a truck, even as you grow lonelier and more weathered, the years climbing on top of each other like old lovers rutting around in the unwashed linens of a comfortable marriage? Does that even exist anymore? Does nothing last? Or is it, or is every good thing in our lives its own TV show destined for cancellation? Is every struggle just part of the never-ending tournament arc of a lousy anime? Do you take antidepressants in the form of wild turkey and RC cola, then drive a GMC Sierra and run out the clock on the handful of years you have before the low T diagnosis? You see, if you believe in yourself, anything is possible. You can own a GMC from nearly 30 years ago. It's a 4x4, but not the Z71 that everybody else had. Those actually got the good shocks. No, you're stuck with the torsion bars, or whatever. I pulled the RPO codes and that's what we got here stock. Merry Christmas. You get a speedometer that fritzes out before the 123,974 miles this has, so now it constantly reads several miles per hour fast. Merry Christmas. You supposedly get 14 miles per gallon city and 18 highway, but for Billy here, it's more around 11 to 12, and even on the highway here, he only got 12.5, which is wild because the torque converter locks at like 50 miles an hour. A torque converter, I should note, that needed to be replaced anyway because it wasn't torque converting. Merry Christmas. The 1996 GMC Sierra, the 1500 SLE, it's a truck. I mean, you can't say it isn't. Chassis code GMT400, RPO code L31 for the Vortec 5700 engine, extended cab, slightly lifted, simultaneously angry and harmless, large but unintimidating, like a school bully who can be deflated with one well-timed crack about his home life. But while I've done a lot of SUVs for Race to the Bottom, most of the trucks I've actually driven were test drives for normal episodes of RCR. Most of them more recent examples, younger, less road-worn, with more tech and comfort features. They're nice, but too nice to really inhabit the calloused-handed identity you might think of when you think about a truck. So I figured this would be as good a chance as I'd ever have to see how a 27-year-old truck holds up against more modern offerings. And the end result is, well, I'm the Roman. This is Race to the Bottom, and today we'll be driving a 1996 GMC 1500 Sierra SLE and try to figure out what the hell happened here. But first, a word from Mr. Regular.
The giveaway for this Mercedes-Benz CL55 AMG Sledgehammer ends this Wednesday. Click on the link in the description or go to go.getintertowin.com, buy a mug or a digital download, and Wednesday, someone's going home with this. Thank you for supporting regular car reviews. And now, back to Nick.
It's hard to really describe how I feel about this truck. In the moment, I almost didn't mind it that much. But as it went on, it's kinda trash. Just a rickety, uncomfortable pile of buckets and bunions and back pain that feels about as safe as a ride at the county fair or one of those wooden roller coasters at Knoebels or Hershey Park. On the other hand, it's actually kind of fun in a weird way. Just, it's not fun for long, you know? And I mean, I know this is weird, but I kind of like the aesthetic of this truck. I just love how it looks, even though it kind of looks junky and has some of the worst undercarriage rot I've ever seen on anything we've ever done for RCR. I initially started out kind of enjoying it, but as it went on and went on, I actually started to kind of resent this truck. I became more and more negative on it. Because I just imagined for a moment what it would be like to have to drive this truck for any longer than, I don't know, like the half hour to 40 minutes that I had it. It just seems like it would be the most exhausting thing in the world to own, to such an extent that I was grateful when I was done driving it, which I can't remember feeling about many cars, trucks, SUVs, anything that I've driven. That initial burst of enjoyment quickly gave way to the reality of what this truck is, the reality of its operation and function and lack thereof. I just really, really grew to dislike this. The totality of the package that you're getting here feels woefully underwhelming even by the standards of the mid-90s. This truck is the automotive equivalent of a destination that you'd like to visit but wouldn't want to live in. It's basically Phoenix, Arizona. It almost feels like a weird sort of betrayal. I wanted to try to give this the benefit of the doubt, and just finding that issues were just piling up like a stack of discarded Playboys in the age of OnlyFans. The engine here is the 5.7-liter V8, the classic Chevy small block that ended up being one of their last production first-gen small blocks, if not their last altogether. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about any of this, or not even close. But for this engine, the heads are supposedly convertible with all Chevy small blocks, so you have options, I guess. From factory, these are rated around 250 horsepower and 335 pound-feet of torque and match to a 4-speed 4L60E automatic transmission. Billy tells me the wiring was weirdly different for the 95 to 96 models, so second gear clutches went out, the pump was dead or dying, and again, torque converter wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, so he was advised to just rebuild the transmission. To that end, he had a shift kit placed on second gear for more pressure and more springs. And what you end up with is the sort of ride that pogo sticks that Taco Bell meal in and out of your guts. In some ways, I feel like I've been abandoned by God and left to fend for myself in Dante's conception of hell, as I meet the road with all the size a truck is supposed to afford you and none of the operational confidence. It feels cobbled together, a collection of diametrically opposed experiences, as I actually go a little faster than I'm anticipating being able to, just not in a smooth way. It feels squirrely, erratic, jerky. And look, I get that there are tons of people who'd find something like this fun, and I wouldn't really question why, because I can understand this truck's appeal when you just need something that offers you the freedom to drive it into the ground until it stops working. You know, that kind of thing. It's a very classic truck in a very endless back roads fashion. You can just slam around in this thing without guilt that you're ruining some sort of hidden gem from the time before trucks stopped being able to conquer the same terrain without the assistance of multiple drive modes. But even while I liked the size, the height, even the storage capacity here, the largesse of it all, none of those things is enough to make this a worthwhile long-term investment, in my opinion. However, again, I don't really begrudge Billy his own thoughts on the matter. You see, he wanted an old truck, and he went out searching for square bodies, but big surprise, he couldn't really find any decent ones. Basically, he wanted to tow his S54 swapped E36 to circuit races, and also to take things to the dump, so he searched and searched until he came across this, and he bought it. Only to be given the wrong title. So he had to track down the previous owner, who kept telling him, "That's a good truck," every fourth sentence. "Oh, that's a good truck. You know, they don't make them like they used to. My wife has a son she don't talk to. So do I. That's a good truck. You see the game Saturday? I don't know what them Eagles are thinking. We're going to make the Super Bowl this year. This is a good truck." Anyway, so Billy resolves the issue, and then he finds out he essentially needs to rebuild the transmission if he wants this to last him longer than a single season. So he had all the work done, and then had the shop install an external oil cooler during the transmission rebuild to mitigate overheating issues, since the weight and heat wreak havoc on the 4L60s. He also replaced the rear brakes and master cylinder, and so if this truck has any commendable stability or function at all, it's thanks to Billy's proactive efforts to make it so. And for that I thank him, because this could have been so much worse. As it stands now, it's a truck that doesn't feel like it has a whole lot going for it outside of its size. In fact, if I can say anything nice about this truck, it's really kind of the aesthetic of it all. Like, even beaten and worn out, it looks like such a classic truck, such a throwback to a different era of trucks, where everything seemed more, I don't know, rugged and masculine, but not in a performative way. I don't know how many wrestling fans actually watch any of this, but it's kind of like the difference between modern War Games matches and the old style of War Games matches from like the 80s and 90s, where there was blood and there was a roof on the cage and it was very kicky, punchy, and didn't have a lot of crazy high spots, but it felt more real. Ugh, man, now I'm just an old man yelling at clouds, but I feel like each generation gets older at a younger age. So I'm 38 and I already feel like I'm complaining at the level of somebody in their 60s. I'm proud. But you see, even when owned by the young, these still feel like old man trucks. And it keeps giving you things to fix, like an elderly neighbor in need of a handyman. Its operation almost compels you to break it. Like, there's no helper handle, so if you're using the steering wheel for support to get in and out, you're going to ruin the pins. But it's a pretty tall car to get in and out of in the first place, more so than most of its period, and for good reason, as this came with modifications, some of which weren't even Billy's call. For instance, the previous owner added a 4-inch body lift and complimentary cigarette burns, and also sent Billy on his way with tires that were rotted to the cords, so much so that full lock wasn't even a possibility, so he had to replace them with essentially the same tires as you'd get on the new Raptor. He added all this chrome, which I don't actually mind. You know, from an appearance standpoint, I actually kind of like it. Maybe whatever. But he added a bull bar and a removable dash liner to hide the GM dash. And that's how we ended up with this answer to the question of whether the aesthetic of adjustable mesh trucker hats should be manifested in the vehicles we drive. I mean, do you find yourself aroused by red flags? Did you grow up playing hide and seek inside rounders at Boscov's to stave off boredom from being forced to go shopping for dress pants? And now, as an adult, you refuse to ever wear any on principle? Weddings, jeans. Baptisms, jeans. Graduation ceremony, jeans. Funerals, cut-off denim shorts. Do you find yourself experimenting with kratom and finding new ways to snort? What is kratom and what do you do with kratom? I drive a GMC Sierra. My child support owings are legendary. My job is secure and my masculinity isn't. So I make fun of people who eat hot dogs while envying them from a safe and comfortable distance. The wedding ring tan line is permanent. You ever bare-knuckle box a minor league baseball mascot? I teach lessons for a living. These 2 fists will give you a mouthful of lesson. So open wide, 'cause daddy's got your favorite. An undeserved ass whooping. Don't at me unless your panel gaps are this wide, you upcycled pile of fuck. Oh, sorry. Wow, really got my heart rate up with that. So before I go and give myself an aneurysm, I guess there's just something about this truck that sets me off, but I don't know why. It's a harmless piece of Americana, so what's my issue, really? Is it just that it's a GM product and I don't really like GM? Because if we're honest, truly honest about this, then GMC is a legend. From an objective, historical standpoint, GMC is a brick in the foundation of the American pickup truck. They've been here for over 100 years. The first badged GMC truck debuted more than a century ago in 1912. They've outlasted so many other companies and continue to create a product that people confidently, proudly utilize here in the 21st century. And so I realized my issue is that in trying to craft a narrative, a thesis about this truck, I've gone from the mindset of I don't like this truck to all GMC trucks must be bad. I was being intellectually dishonest without even realizing it. And that is BS. Preformed biases should not enter into any objective analysis. But if I want to aspire to an objective analytical voice, then I actually have to try being objective. So let's look at this again. Divorced from all the GM-ness and those connotations and connections, and in the interest of fairness, here are my concluding thoughts. This truck fucking sucks. But it's not a moratorium on all GMC trucks. I get the heritage here, and hey, maybe if I'd driven the first-gen Sierra in its heyday, I might have had a different opinion. But even as someone with a predisposition towards older cars over modern, I still find myself struggling to accept why somebody would choose this truck beyond just wanting a lot of storage capacity, room enough for more than one passenger, and a decent amount of size and power with nothing to really inspire confidence in the longevity of what that power is housed in. Because really, this is just a 4th-gen Chevy CK. This is a K1500 Silverado that went out for smokes and never looked back. It's badge-engineered trash because that's what GM was in the business of making. Because even objectively, I can't separate this truck from its GM history. Of course, not everything badge-engineered was actually bad, as evidenced by the most recent race to the bottom, the Saab 9.5 Sport Combi. GM made plenty of mistakes, but they are not, nor have they ever really been, completely irredeemable. You know? But whoever defends General Motors? Do GM fanboys even exist? I don't mean are there Camaro fanboys, are there Corvette fanboys, are there Silverado fanboys. I mean, do fanboys for General Motors, as a company, in the year of our Lord 2023, soon to be 24, actually exist? In the same way Toyota fanboys exist, in the same way Honda bros exist, in the same way PA dubbers exist, in the same way BMW guys will go to mattresses for their E30, in the same way Tesla fanboys will insist that some random technological innovation we've had since the late 90s didn't exist before old phony Stark was here to take credit for it. Because in my experience, people don't really call their banners to rise up in defense of General Motors. They'll simply go to task for the brands they like under their umbrella while criticizing other decisions they've made. I've probably spent way too much time in multiple different forums over the years where GM should be absorbing fanboy saliva into its porous innards. I've probably spent nearly as much time as I've spent making videos about all the ways in which GM dropped the ball. And yet, even within the context of places where it would be safe to geek out over General Motors, I still came across any number of, hey, remember this dumb thing GM did? Wouldn't it have been cool if they did, not that? The badge engineering, the deterioration of Cadillac, the devaluing of the Camaro, black textured plastics, the faulty ignitions tragedy, the overall feeling of being a pick-me car company. Whether deserved or not, people have been ragging on GM since the internet arrived to platform our roasting. But here's the deal. I don't know that General Motors is any more deserving of ire than, say, Ford when it comes to American auto companies. If anything, I would say Ford is way easier to make fun of as a prototypical representation of all the most American parts of America. From overzealous muscle car drivers to self-involved left-lane campers in their Ford Focuses, right on down to the typical F-150 truck Travises, cigarette held limply between chapped lips, ashes falling on a shirt with the Punisher logo. So why does GM always get the business? It's because, in a way, I think General Motors has acquired this reputation as being the most anti-consumer among American automotive companies. And maybe it's not just the big things like smothering the EV1 before it even had a chance, or the whole V8 6.4 engine debacle, or keeping prices high despite cutting costs in other areas in ways that you would expect would lower the prices on new models. New models, mind you, that weren't any appreciably better than whatever came before, unless it was one of their big tentpole type cars like a Corvette. Maybe this is just what General Motors has earned, and they have to earn their way out of the hole that they've dug for themselves. So me playing devil's advocate inevitably circles back around to this truck. What we're left with is a truck that, even relative to other models from the same era, leaves tons to be desired. You can be attracted to red flags, but red flags are just indicators of traits that will eventually wear you down into surrender. Red flags almost inevitably lead to white ones. Is the GMC 1500 Sierra SLE the worst car I've ever driven? No. But for now, I feel safe enough in saying it's the worst truck. So I've now reviewed 7 cars for Race to the Bottom, and the most recent review, the Saab 9.5 Sport Combi, didn't make it onto the bottom 5, but this one will, which means one of the 5 need to be kicked out. It will be the one out of the bottom 5 that I liked the most. So thanks for playing Ford Escape, you're off the hook. But the question now is, where does the GMC Sierra fit in? Well, currently the rankings go as follows. At the top, the car that I like the most out of this bottom 5, the Kia Forte GT, because it's mostly just harmless, you know? Followed by the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid, which is just sort of boring, you know? At number 3, and I almost can't believe I'm saying this, it's the Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo. And so the question is the Sierra worse than the Nissan Sentra? And right now, I just don't feel... I'm going to go with my gut. And my gut, and from everything that I've experienced with this truck and with the Sienna is still worse. So the GMC Sierra is at number 4, and the current leader in the Race to the Bottom, at number 5 at the bottom, is the Nissan Sentra. I'd like to thank Billy for offering me his truck and for encouraging me to just go ham on it with the whatever my opinion ended up being. If you think you have the car that can win the Race to the Bottom, reach out at regularcarstheroman@gmail.com. Right now, we can only accept people who are willing to drive to southeastern Pennsylvania, but if you think you have the car that can beat out any of these 5, please don't hesitate to hit me up. And come film with me and Brian. That'll be it for me, but stay tuned as I have a special presentation right now in the form of the ongoing tradition. Yes, for the 9th consecutive year, we have another RCR Christmas song. So if you find yourself missing the days when RCR videos had outros, just consider this one big outro. I hope you enjoy it, I hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great holiday season. Cheers. One official check, make it out to cash. I'm gonna pay off all my bills and have a Christmas bash with the wife and kids and friends inside a mansion that's superfluous. No more living in the red this year, unless I'm doing it in my Santa suit and festive beard, cause the company made a profit and the earnings trickled down to us. So I'ma buy a 992 GT3 and then a 675 LT. Aston Martin DBS, I'll be impressing the guys. The company made like 3, 4, 5, 6 million, 7, 8, 9, 10 billion. Throw away the plastic trees, we're using actual pine. Waiting for the mail to bring the news. I want it, oh Lord, please be more than 100. Please? I can't wait until I get all the money that I just done spent, all inside my head. Every night I pray beside my bed, because I'm waiting on a moment, waiting on a moment. Got a list of wishes that are long as the now, but if I'm patient then the patience will pay off with a smile. But till the check's in hand I'm gonna sit for a while, cause I'm waiting on a bonus, 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 waiting on a bonus. You're telling me that I'm falling out of touch, my love, that I work too hard, that I work too much, but this year we'll get a table at that place downtown. No more having to wait. When the check comes through, I'll be rich as a loan, making polygonal trucks and wasting time being on social media conglomerate that everybody seems to hate. We'll stay straight breaded up, endless cash will stay up, ordering out endless dash will stay, purchasing all the cars that still internal combust. We'll stay jet setting off somewhere nice. We'll stay indulgent in our every vice, and have enough in our joint account to donate to those who have less than us. Waiting for the mail until I do my shopping. What happened to direct deposit? I can't wait until I get all the money that I just done spent, all inside my head. Every night I pray beside my bed, because I'm waiting on a moment, waiting on a moment. Got a list of wishes that are long as the now, but if I'm patient then the patience will pay off with a smile. But till the check's in hand I'm gonna sit for a while, cause I'm waiting on a bonus, 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 waiting on a bonus. You're not gonna believe it, but the company just said that they did all their accounting and the projections weren't met. So the conjecture in my head is projection of the lesson, that the blessing of the season's not intention of spending every dollar left to mention. But I'm tired of filling stockings up with nothing. I'd like to place a ball in a car or give them something, but do they even care what's under the tree if I'm here to spend every moment? Cause the feeling's real even if parts pretend. So tell your sister, mother, father, brother, friend that being together's all that matters in the end. I can't wait until I get all the money that I just done spent, all inside my head. Every night I pray beside my bed, because I'm waiting on a moment, waiting on a moment. Got a list of wishes that are long